Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news, and we've got three big stories to talk about right off the cuff today, as well as a raft of other things involving Rasmus, Antony, Sancho and a hell of a lot more. But it's probably the biggest news drop morning we've had in a long time. So significant updates around Baleba, around Garnacho, and also around Donnarumma as well. Probably not the update we would like around Donnarumma. Effectively, the issue we have is Onana, which we'll talk about. There's basically David Ornstein's dropped a big article this morning through The Athletic. Fabrizio's been very active as well, and there's a few other bits. But mainly, I suppose the most significant place to start is that Fabrizio Romano in the last couple of minutes has just retweeted this. And we know what a Fabrizio Romano retweet means. It means, basically he's had more information that this is actually correct. So Manchester United plan for new talks for Baleba in the upcoming dates. Manchester United believe Baleba is keen on the move. Contacts follow on Brighton's side as deal remains very difficult, but United will try. So effectively, we are going to get into these talks with Baleba through Brighton over the next few days. And I'm still a firm believer that that one will happen. However, a more significant update overnight is that we are moving closer and closer to a £50 million deal for Garnacho with Chelsea. I think last night on the 8 o'clock show, when you're listening to comments about Garnacho saying, he will sit on his arse for 12 months if he doesn't get a move to Chelsea, you sort of feel like this could get quite elongated. But over the last few hours and overnight, we've had updates again from Fabrizio Romano saying that Garnacho Chelsea is actually moving very, very quickly, and talks are now taking place between Manchester United and Chelsea for a fee, which I think is quite positive, because I think it's really important that although Garnacho doesn't seem to have respect for anybody anymore to do with Manchester United, Chelsea and Manchester United do actually retain quite a good working relationship, as is evidenced over the years. We've taken people like Matic, obviously Mason Mount. There are people, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has had a season ticket there. So he did try to buy them. So I think there is a good relationship between Chelsea and Manchester United. And whilst Garnacho is obviously willing to fall out with everybody, I'm not so sure that Chelsea are. They are so good in the transfer market because people buy their players and they buy other people's players. And to do that, you've got to have good relations. So it's interesting that that is moving quicker than we probably thought it might do last night. And the price being spoken around is around 50 million quid. Now, I think if Manchester United can achieve 50 million pounds for Garnacho, it will be absolutely fantastic. I feel that there will be a bit of wiggle room there. I don't think it's going to go lower than 40, but obviously, I think if United can clear 40, 45 million pounds now and build in some add-ons and sell-on fee, I think that would be a good deal. So it doesn't look like this 30 million pounds nonsense is anything to do with it. Interesting story coming in about Antony this morning, which we will talk about in a moment or two as well. Someone says Mark's back in the toilet. I've told you for the next few weeks, my morning show is predominantly going to be in this room. Evening show will be in the studio. Building work is still going to go on. If you know anything about building work, it takes time. So yes, we are back in here. But we've got all the news and that's all that matters. I want to talk about Donnarumma next as well, because there's so much. Stanley says, what's your thoughts on the new third kit? It's as good as I thought. I don't want to spend any time promoting Man United football kits because you get into trouble for that. But I'd seen the concept of it a few weeks ago. I'm not one that really likes kits, but it just makes me think of Shark View Cantona kicking the Crystal Palace fan, and better times. It's a lovely kit. It's a lovely kit. It's a shame when you release a kit like that, it's a shame you only get to wear it for a year, because for me, we should wear that for the next 10 years. That should be the away kit for the next 10 years. And I remember the days when you used to get an away kit for 2 years. It's a shame, actually, because it's a lovely kit. Beth's actually bantered me already, because apparently there's a female one that's like a crop top, and she said how much to wear it. And I said, I'll do it. I've got a 6-pack. Went down Sainsbury's the other day and bought some. But yeah, it's looking good. I don't know what's going on, but I'm sure we've got some moderators. Yeah, well done. Bit weird this morning, but thank you very much, Savage. I've had to delete a couple already as well. I don't know what it is. toxic Sunday into toxic Tuesday. You're on the wrong channel. We're quite chill here. We're going to sign Baleba. I said we'd sign Sesko. Hopefully we're going to get a goalkeeper. We're chill. We're starting the season on the weekend. I don't know what you're talking about with your negativity and your toxicity. I think you're on the wrong channel. I think we all know who does that. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. Crop top bridge. Yeah, the kit looks nice. I want to talk about Donnarumma because there is a very interesting article that's come out today from the Athletic. The predominantly the most respectable journalist when it comes to transfer news, David Ornstein. Now, effectively, there's some quite interesting bits in there about Rasmus. There's some other bits about other players as well. But I think the most significant update in there was not actually from David Ornstein, because basically they just do this drop on the Athletic every now and again. It's called a transfer drop. And all their journalists give all the updates on all the clubs, whether it's Man Utd, Newcastle, etc. So basically, what David Ornstein is saying is that Manchester United, several United players have been in contact with Baleba regarding a transfer to discuss the current situation and the club's ambitions. I actually think that's a bit over the top. I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean, to me, it's a bit like winning team photos. I don't think Onana or Mbeumo or Yoro contacting Baleba to join Man United really makes that much difference. You know, I really don't think it does. It's a little bit like saying to your mate, I think you should go out with Margot Robbie. Like it's Brighton, £12,500 a week, or it's Manchester United, 150 grand a week. He's going to want to do that. So when I keep seeing United players are trying to get Baleba to come and join the club, he's had millions of people in his replies on Instagram telling him to do that. Like that's not going to be the thing. The thing is going to be the price with Brighton, and we all know that. But interestingly, it also says that Baleba is keen on the possibility of moving to Manchester United. Personal terms would not be a problem, and that is from David Ornstein as well. But the big thing I wanted to talk about was Donnarumma. Now let me go back to so this is what Laurie Whitwell put in that article. He says United's stance on a goalkeeper is that a signing could only happen if Onana departs, and there are no signs of that happening at the present. A move for Donnarumma is not expected to materialise. So it's funny, really, isn't it? Because I think time and time again this summer, beyond Ornstein and Romano, we've had a few accounts on X trying to join in the transfer stuff. I mean, I literally saw one who was massively wrong about Mbeumo again at the weekend, saying that we're in contact with Donnarumma, and it had like 600,000 interactions. That's not true. And, you know, it's not my place to, you know, call those people out, because I'm sure, you know, they're probably good people, but you are spreading false narratives, and we're not in talks with Donnarumma. Like we're just not. It's a possibility, but it's not a reality. And it's like Baleba before we actually held the talks. I mean, it'd be a great signing for Man United, and we do need a midfielder. But until David Ornstein said that we were holding talks with his representatives, then we're not in talks with Baleba, and we're not in talks with Donnarumma. And yet over the weekend, you've got people who are apparently in the know saying to people, we're in talks. Talks have begun with Donnarumma, and they actually haven't. We've not held any talks with Donnarumma as of 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Now, it's only yesterday that PSG have left him out, but we're not talking to him because we can't talk to him, because we're about to offload a huge amount of money on Baleba, and Donnarumma is a huge amount of money. We approached Villa to loan Emi Martinez. For whatever reason, we don't have a budget for a goalkeeper, and it probably is everything to do with that update that Laurie Whitwell has put out, that Man United sadly cannot get a goalkeeper while Andre Onana is here, and he won't go. And that really is quite concerning. And maybe it puts a pin in my theory that we're waiting towards the end of the window to do something like an Emi Martinez or a Donnarumma. But right here, right now, we're not doing anything with the goalkeeper, because we've still got Binder and Onana, and that's what we're going to go into the season with, which is, you know, it's very, very disappointing. I still believe we will buy a goalkeeper, because I cannot believe that we will go into the season with Onana and Binder. I mean, I think that's a a massive, massive mistake on the part of the board, Ruben Amorim, Jason Wilcox, and Favel. I think that's a huge, huge error. It's like building a Formula One car to win the Monaco Grand Prix and then not buying any fuel. You're not going anywhere. Doesn't matter how good your driver is, doesn't matter how good your engine is, doesn't matter how good your bloody aerodynamics are, doesn't matter how fast the car is, if it doesn't have any fuel in it, it won't win the race. And I'm not going to panic about it, because I've said to you many times, Man United will sign a goalkeeper. And it's a new world. It is a new world, because normally I would panic, but I'm not going to panic, because whilst I respect the update from Laurie Whitwell, and I think it's the one that certainly has been fed out from the club for a long time, and certainly Laurie Whitwell would be one of those people that would be fed by the club. The club's stance clearly is that we're not buying a goalkeeper while Andre Onana is here. However, we've also known since March that Amorim wants to replace Onana, and so does other people as well. So I think that we will see a goalkeeper come in. Unfortunately, we may need to prepare for the fact that it won't be a Donnarumma, it won't be an Emi Martinez, because it will be a replacement for Biinda that maybe is Lamens to push out Onana in the longer term. We will bring a goalkeeper in though, because it would be akin to footballing jumping off a cliff. Really, you can't not do anything about it. But look, JR says maybe we could loan Donnarumma with an option to buy. I'm not going to sit here and say we're not going to get Donnarumma. I think the important thing to remember is that in a transfer window, when you look at June, we weren't in for Baleba. When you look at June, we weren't in for Sesko. We were still flirting around the prospect of a Gyökeres or an Osimhen or an Ekitike. So you can't definitively say no. Like I said, there was people like talk shit linking us to Semenyo from March and April. We were never, ever in for Semenyo. It was a fact. But I did say that doesn't mean in July, in August, we won't go towards Semenyo. So Donnarumma, right here, right now, we're not doing anything about it. Doesn't mean in tomorrow we won't. Doesn't mean that next week we won't. But when people put it out there that we're in talks with players and we're not, that's when it causes issues, because you end up getting the backlash. Donnarumma's not available for Manchester United at the moment with the goalkeeping situation that we have. And look, before we move on, what I will say about Onana is they want him gone. They want to replace him. They know he's not all that. For some reason, he has power at the football club. And the only power he's got is, I want to stay. Now, it's different to somebody like a Casemiro or a Rasmus, because Amorim has other options. He can bench Rasmus, he can bench Casemiro, and he can say, look, you can hang around if you want, but I'm not going to give you that many minutes. But with Onana, he has to pick him. So Onana is in a completely exclusive position where, unfortunately, United are not willing to spend on a goalkeeper whilst Onana is here. Now, I think they need to change that, because as we've seen with Garnacho and Rashford and Sancho, when you put pressure on these players, they have to go. And I think they will. I think they will. Seriously, I do. Dara just said, Romano literally just said we are in for Donnarumma. Well, look, mate. As I said, things can change. I'm reacting to what the story is, but we're definitely not in transfer talks with Donnarumma at the moment. And it's literally just dropped from an article with David Ornstein that, and I'll read it back to you again. United's stance on goalkeepers is that a signing can only happen if Onana departs. A move for Donnarumma is not expected to materialise. So believe what you want. Romano's very good. And if Romano has said that, maybe he knows something. But also, Romano is very close, and has always been very close, to the agency that was formerly Mino Raiola's. So, look, remember, some people say that sometimes some of these journalists do agents' bidding. And Man United being in for Donnarumma is never a bad thing, is it? We're not in for Donnarumma, according to that article that David Ornstein and Laurie Whitwell wrote. If Fabrizio says we are, you've got to choose one. I would say, if I'm Donnarumma and I'm his agent, I'm saying Man United are in for me, because it helps your brand. It helps, your exposure. I've always felt we won't get Donnarumma, as much as I think he's an amazing goalkeeper. I've always felt that we won't do that. I feel like that's a bit too much of a dream. It'd be stunning, as I said. But look, let's see how it pans out. But ultimately, if Onana had been sold, then we would probably be in a much better situation. But as things stand at the moment, highly unlikely to happen. Well, I wouldn't say highly unlikely, but not expected to materialise. Interestingly, in that same article, by the way, I mean, I'm sort of deviating all over the place here because there's a few bits I want to get into. Newcastle are one of the clubs taking a look at a potential deal to sign Rasmus Hojlund. Now, AC Milan is one thing. Newcastle in the Champions League, I mean, I'd quite fancy that. I've got to be honest. I'm not saying it's an upgrade, but I've got to say, if Man United were wanting to sell me and Newcastle were willing to play me, I think that would be the sort of move that you might start looking at and going, I quite fancy that. Now, I don't know the validity of it, and so obviously Newcastle might feel a bit depressed about that. And I think some of you do believe that there's a good player in Rasmus, and obviously we've got Sesko now. I'd like him to stay as the backup striker, certainly more than bloody bringing someone like Calvert-Lewin in. But the thing is, I think with the Premier League, the good thing about selling to the Premier League is that you're going to get a lot more money than you're going to get from an Italian club or a Spanish club. So if we did do a Rasmus deal with Newcastle and maybe it was a loan and he did do well, we're going to get a hell of a lot more money out of this in the future. And also for him, Champions League football, Premier League football, it'd be quite I'll tell you what, it'd be one to watch. I'd watch that with interest. It'd be sort of like a player leaving that you wish well, whereas with certain others we probably don't. So keep an eye on that one. I don't think Newcastle will do it, to be honest with you, but it was interesting that it was in there. But interesting. All right, there's a few comments coming in here and I just want to get them in because I realise I whizzed through a few bits there. Emily Derry said, things can change very quickly in the transfer window. However, given the expense going on Baleba, Donnarumma would be difficult. Emily, I think you're absolutely spot on, as you are many, many times. I think that it would be ridiculous to sit here and say we're not signing Donnarumma. I just think as of this morning, it's highly unrealistic because we haven't removed the goalkeeper. And I said to you at the weekend, you can talk about Onana. He's very stubborn. He believes that he can turn it around. Obviously, he's a nice guy and he's well liked. I mean, to turn it around, he needs to learn goalkeeping again. It's basically like a reset. I don't think he can. But one other thing we miss is that Binder should have fucked off. I'm sorry to swear, but if he'd gone, we could bring Lemens in. So it's not just about Onana not being willing to go. Even if Binder went, you could bring in Lemens and straight away go, well, at least we've got someone who might push him out. So it's not just Onana, it's Binder as well. It's this double shit goalkeeping couple that are cock blocking, in a sense, our ability to bring in a goalkeeper. So it isn't just Onana. You could remove Binder and bring in a decent backup to push Onana out. But at the moment, we're stuck on both levels. And I think that's equally a conversation. So as much as I would like Onana to go and be replaced, I also think it's unfair to keep going, Onana. There is a backup goalkeeper that is completely never going to be good enough, who needs to go as well. I don't know how we've got into this situation. And remember, both of these are Ten Hag signings. These are nothing to do with Amorim. He's basically hands tied on this. And it annoys me because I'm not taking a pop at Barada or Sir Jim or the Glazers or anything at all. It just annoys me that we've got two goalkeepers that weren't bought by this manager. It's such an important position. We're starting the season, and if against Fulham, Arsenal, Burnley, Man City, Chelsea, we get a goalkeeping error, the shit hits the fan, and it's the manager that gets held accountable. And that's my issue. It's like it's such an open goal, literally, that this is a problem. And it's just not going to work. It will not work in the sense that we'll hit the end of the season and go, well, we didn't need a goalkeeper after all. We all know at some point it's going to cost us. I mean, look, people say that in his first season he cost us Champions League football. He did. He was in his first 6 months at the club. But can you afford to gamble on that sort of stuff? I don't think you can. Dylan says, I hope the family's well and the Premier League is back this weekend. Can't bloody wait, and you're my inspiration. And I love this community. Cheers, Dylan. This is tea, by the way. Hope you're doing well. Indy Kayla taking the piss with Vinny Jr. Man City talks. Also incredibly exciting for the opening weekend. United versus Arsenal is going to be special, says Rajaf. Indy Kayla needs to be very careful. You know, they've had a couple of good ones, but, you know, nobody can post with the frequency of what they're posting at. So, you know, I still am dubious about that, although they've had a couple of good ones. Maybe we could loan Donnarumma with option to buy, says JR. Hojlund doesn't want to go, but he's forced out. Why can't we force Onana? Doesn't make sense to me, says Rooney. Bradders says, I've got my driving test tomorrow. Wish me luck. Good luck with that, Bradders. Mike says, yes, but Mark, you also said we would get Delap, Gyökeres. We didn't lose respect for you for getting those wrong, so don't get others doing the same, says Mike. Mike, I mean, look, I don't know how educated you are, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. Like, the information on Delap was spot on. He was the priority. We didn't get him. I never said we were signing him. I said he was the priority, and Man United were confident that we're going to get him. The morning after the Champions League final, the Europa League final, I said Garnacho was 100% leaving. Romano had it 3 hours later. I told you there's going to be behind the closed doors game this week. No one had it until yesterday. I told you on Saturday. Gyökeres, we were in talks for, and it got very close. I thought we would do it. We didn't. But the information was good, but we're not in talks with Donnarumma. So that's not the same information, is it? And Burmo deal was done 3 weeks before it actually did get done. And people were putting that out. What I'm saying is, don't put out information that's not accurate. We were in for Delap. We were in for Gyökeres. We're not in talks with Donnarumma as on Friday or Saturday or whenever it was put out. That's my point. Everybody can get stuff wrong. Of course they can. Transfers are, you know, very, very, very fragile. But when people put out, we're in talks with this player and we're not, that's a little bit different. And also, I never sit here and say, I'm telling you this. I always say where it's coming from. And ultimately, I don't think there is ever going to be a source that's 100% correct. I really, really don't, because things can change. So I disagree with you, Mike, to be honest. And you know me, I will own it if I think it's fair, but I don't agree with that. At no point would I sit here and say we're in talks for a player that I know we're not in talks for. Like, I wouldn't do it because it's bullshit. I've got a feeling we aren't going to sign anyone else this window. I hope I'm wrong. Well, Sean, you are the voice of reason, but on this case, I think you're talking shit. We will be signing. I think we'll sign 2 more players. I still think we'll get a goalkeeper. Can I just clarify? That's not because I'm telling you we're in talks with a goalkeeper. I think we'll get a goalkeeper. I'm confident we'll get Baleba, though. I really am. I think that everything indicates that that will happen. All the sources, all the stories, all the momentum, all the progression. I'm telling you now, that Baleba story is moving. And if, for whatever reason, because I've never said it's 100%, I've said I think we will get him. I'm confident we will get him. I haven't said we will. That's a theory based on evidence. If we don't get him, I think we will pivot and get something else, because I think it's United have literally exposed themselves that they need a midfielder, and it won't be just Baleba. They will have a backup. Who that backup's going to be? Crystal Palace aren't in Europe. That could be Wharton. Hojlund has played for Amrim at Sporting. So I think we will move on if we don't get one. But I'm absolutely confident that we will find somebody. Mate, if we don't buy another player, this transfer window's shit. That doesn't mean Sesko and Burmo and Cunha are shit, but as a transfer window, it's not. It would be a 5 at best. Sesko, Cunha and Burmo, and it would not be a good transfer window. They're good players, but it wouldn't be a good transfer window. And I think we'll end up with a debatably good transfer window. I'm surprised Costa hasn't moved, despite it being common knowledge he's ready to leave. I think we'll see Lemens this summer and Costa next, says James. I think with Costa, he's just priced out by Porto. Yeah, I think it's a lot of money. And also the goalkeeping market's not that good, which is why last night when we heard that PSG had left Donnarumma out, a lot of us were getting excited, because we're basically going, there is no goalkeeper market. What the intriguing thing about Donnarumma, and why I think some people have, jumped in and, guessed that we're in talks with him is because where does he go? PSG have just frozen him out. So where does he go? Chelsea have tried to get Maignan, but they didn't want to pay 25 million. So they're not going to want to pay Donnarumma's fee. And we probably can't afford it either, but we both love him. So does he lower his expectations? Where we're at with Donnarumma at the moment, and I don't need Fabrizio to tell me this, Donnarumma has literally just found out that he can't play for PSG. So you go to market and you go, I'm leaving now. But when you go to market, you go, I'm the best goalkeeper in the world. I want 250k a week and PSG want 25 million. And I want a signing on fee. And Chelsea and Man United go, it's August. We've already spent our budget and we've got other things that we're doing. We want Baleba. Chelsea want Garnacho and Simons. So they would say to Donnarumma, we can't negotiate because we haven't got the money for it. So unless you're going to say you're going to lower your wage expectations or PSG are going to loan him to us, we're not interested. And that's where we're at the moment. Emily Derry nailed it. It can change, but neither us or Chelsea are involved in talks for Donnarumma because we cannot afford the 25 million PSG want and the wages and signing on fee and agent fee that they will want. But the flip side is the goalkeeping market's crap. Apart from Saudi, who's going to do it? Now, the thing about Donnarumma is I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Saudi. I really wouldn't. And they would love him there. That's exactly the sort of thing that Saudi want. They want the best players in the world there and they will pay for them. So what's the one place he can go that will give him the money he wants and probably won't impact his Italian place? So Saudi's probably the best option at the moment, unless he massively lowers his financial expectations, because Man United would want Donnarumma and so would Chelsea. But financially, we can't do the deal at the moment, and neither can they, because it doesn't work for us at this moment in time. That could change over the next couple of weeks. I can't think of another European club that is going to be looking at a goalkeeper of that quality and have the money to do it. I'm surprised with 50. I thought we'd get shafted. 50 plus would help Baleba. Worried about Donnarumma. Wages make feel it's unlikely he might be loaned to us as SK. The understanding is with Chelsea, and Romano was talking about this, is that Man United and Chelsea are in talks around the fee, and they are amicable talks at the moment. So reading between the lines on that, United want 50, Chelsea want to play closer to 35, you meet somewhere in the middle. But it doesn't sound like Chelsea have gone, we're going to pay you 30, we're going to wait till the end of the window, and then Garnacho's going to go on strike if you don't do it. So as I said, Garnacho's an immature person, and he's shown that. Man United, Chelsea aren't. Chelsea have a good relationship with many clubs, and they have a good relationship with Man United. I don't think Chelsea are going to walk into negotiations with United and say it's 30 or nothing. So let's see how it goes. Jason says, bit off topic, but I'm honestly surprised we never went for or showed interest in Garnacho of Sporting. I'm very surprised that we've not gone for a Sporting player. But that's a lie. We did want Kenda, and he went to Chelsea. We did want Gyökeres, and he went to Arsenal. So in a way, Amrin might have said, there's only two players I want from Sporting, and we didn't get them. Because you are down to option 3 now, because he did want Gyökeres and Kenda. But look, there was talk of a Trincao. There was talk of a Gonçalves. There was talk of a Hojlund. There was talk of Garnacho, Diamonde. I'm surprised we haven't got one, because his system is so unique and they know it, but there might be in the future. First time super chat, forgot to write a message, says Aidan. Well, you've had a shout out, Aidan. Let thoughts go out to Aidan. Timon says, Amrim told Costa that he's the keeper he wants. His contract ends in 27. Maybe we're waiting for the next window and getting a cheaper goalkeeper for now, says Timon. That's the balancing act, isn't it? You know, Real Madrid are very good at this, saying to players, we'll get you in a year or two. But when you're Real Madrid, you know you're going to be first or second and, you know, deep in the Champions League. At Man United, it's very difficult to say, we'll wait for you, because, you know, you lose your first 3 games of the season and you're not there to wait for them, you're gone. Edward V has gifted 5 memberships. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you very much, Edward. Appreciate that. Off topic, hope you and your wife plus the kids have a lovely summer and being healthy and well. Greetings from sunny Vienna. What a lovely message from Christian. That right back at you, Christian, to you and your family. Thank you very much. Joskin says, I hope Whitwell is wrong and we go for Donnarumma to push Onana out. But when you know that Baleba is coming, it doesn't make sense to get rid of Cameroon player before getting another one in, says Joskin. Look, in relation to Laurie Whitwell, who is very much like James Ducker or Simon Stone or Chris Wheeler, these are journalists that follow Man United round home and away. They're in every press conference. They are journalists that get information from the club. They're not transfer experts. So I would hazard a guess that Laurie Whitwell's been told by the club that a Donnarumma deal is unlikely. That's what I mean sometimes about client journalism. You take the information and you put it out there, but you don't know why Man United are putting it out there. So Man United at the moment might be putting it out there that they're not in for Donnarumma to get the message out that they're not going to pay what he wants. So they're not in for him. That then goes public. Donnarumma hears about it and goes, Man United aren't in for me. They can't afford me. So then they go, let's lower our expectations. So sometimes the Laurie Whitwells of this world and the James Duckers, they take the information from the club, they put it out. They might be doing the job, the club's bidding. You know, they might not even realise that. So, you know, in 2 weeks' time, if we sign Donnarumma, it doesn't mean Laurie Whitwell is clueless. It just means as of the time of writing that article, he's been given that information. And the ulterior motive behind that information could be to drive the price down on Donnarumma. It could be because we're not going to go for Donnarumma. We'll just have to wait and see. But nothing is over in this transfer window until the transfer window closes. And as you know, in the last couple of days, stuff that's not, but you know, if a transfer window is 90 days, for 88 days, you cannot be doing a deal. And then on day 89, you can suddenly be doing it. I've been here since the Sancho 90% club, says LB Clips. Just want to say your commitment to United Stand is unmatched, classed as always. Thank you very much for being here, mate. Really appreciate that. And Jack Milner says he's a complete idiot. He's only hurting himself with recent behaviour. Don't think he's talking about me. Who do you think he's talking about? I mean, I hazard a guess you're talking about Garnacho. But from one potential idiot to another, there was an interesting story this morning I wanted to talk about involving Antony. Now, it's coming in from Spanish outlet ABC de Sevilla, which I think is Spanish. Yeah, it is Spanish. So they're saying that Manchester United are demanding that Antony accept one of the transfer offers he has this week with the threat of leaving him on the sidelines till January. Man United do not want Antony to hold out until the end of the window in his push to move to Betis. United are aware of the Betis strategy and are looking to thwart it by pressuring Antony to make a decision now. Now, look, Antony's a different one, isn't he? Because when you look at Antony, I've never had a problem with Antony. I thought he was mistreated by the press very early on when he did the fidget spinner. I think, strangely, the xenophobia in certain elements of our media rose to the surface and they couldn't hide it. It was like a stunning reaction to a bit of skill. And I felt that he was ridiculed and hated by certain people because of that. And I think that's unfair, just on a passport. Having said that, I don't think he adjusted to Premier League football very well. And I think Amorim made the right choice. And from that choice in January, Antony made the right choice going to Betis and proved that you can be a good footballer who struggles in the Premier League. And I thought his loan deal was commendable. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I thought that out of him and Sancho and Garnacho and Rashford, he came out of it with real credit. And I've got to say, I've been stunned by the fact that I really did think he would come back and instantly get a move in June and be in a club pre-season raring to go. I'm really surprised by how he's sat on his arse and done nothing. I really am. And it just goes to show you what I was saying yesterday about what goes on between here. Because on the pitch, sometimes they do stuff that you think, oh, they're intelligent. And then you see actions off the pitch that make you go, well, I just don't get it. And the thing about Antony is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he did get back into he wasn't in the Brazil squad pretty much from the minute he signed for Man United. And I think at Betis, he got back into the Brazil squad, didn't he? So I don't understand it's probably the best bit of evidence we could ever use that we've got 3 players that could play in the World Cup next year for their country and are jeopardizing it by having no pre-season. I can't get my head around that, because if you love football and you want to play football, surely you want to play for your country in a World Cup. But no, they'd rather sit on their arse to help out the club that they want to go to. So in the case of Antony, Betis can't afford him. We paid £80 million for you and gave you 200 grand a week. And you are basically sat on your arse trying to hold us to ransom so you can go to Betis, who can't afford you. Make it make sense. Like, whatever you think about Man United, they've paid you a lot of money, mate, and you are under contract. And I find it incredible that you're sat on your arse, not doing pre-season, refusing other offers so that you can go back to Betis, who can't afford you. And you want us to pay you your wages as well, because that's the deal. Betis can't afford him, and they also can't afford his wages. So what he wants to do is go on loan to Betis and us to pay half his wages. And I'm sort of like, if your name was Jadon Sancho, the fan base would be going mad. It's only because Antony's quite likeable to a lot of people in the fan base that we're sort of like forgiving it. But it is crazy. Like, Betis can't afford you, and we need to pay your wages. You've done your Betis loan. The Betis loan was to get you a better move. There are offers on the table. Take them. So hopefully we can solve this, because it will be a real kick in the nuts to United if he ends up going to Betis on loan and we pay half his wages again, because it almost makes you think, well, what was the point in the one that he did before? I understand that he probably likes it in Betis, and he probably likes the club, he likes the fans, he likes the lifestyle, but, you know, if they can't afford you, mate, they can't afford you. You know, it's like having a test drive in a Ferrari and you can't afford it. Like, you've got to give it back, and Betis are going to have to give him back. But it's an odd one. It is an odd one. And at least Rashford got that Barcelona move quite quickly. At least Garnacho and Chelsea are now in talks. But the Betis one, apparently, is they're just sat there going, we'll wait till the end of the window. And he won't do anything else. So it's interesting in that sense. But look, it's United, isn't it? Have I spoken about that? Have I spoken about this? Oh no, this is the update from The Athletic on Baleba. Manchester United are continuing to explore whether a move for Brighton and Hove Albion midfielder Carlos Baleba can be agreed this summer. The talks taking place with intermediaries on United behalf have so far been to assess his willingness to join and salary, which we know. Brighton do not intend to sell him, preferring to keep him, and have not indicated a price so far. But United are determined to reshape Manchester United's midfield and Amrim's squad as much as possible in his first summer transfer window, and adding a top-level number 6 has been central to the club's plans. He's not a number 6. I don't know why The Athletic keep talking about him as a number 6. He's not a number 6. It's going to cause a lot of people's problems who don't watch Baleba. He's not a number 6. He'll play in a midfield too, but he's not a number 6. You know, number 6, you say number 6 and people think Rodri, Carrick, sit in front of the back 4, dictate the play. You're going to lose so much of Baleba's qualities if you play him like that. But also, we don't play with a 6. We're going to play with 2 8s. And I think he'll work really well in our system. But we don't play a 6. We don't play a holding midfielder. We don't do that. Even, you know, I think people think we do. I think they think when we play Agate and Bruno, Agate sits. He doesn't. He goes bombing forward as well. Casemiro goes forward. We're not really playing. I think people need to understand in Amrim's system, the midfield 2, they're not going to sit unless we're parking the bus against somebody. They're going to press. It's the back 3. One of them's got to become a midfielder. That's what Amrim wants to happen, and that's why Lisandro Martinez is going to be so important if he can get fit, because he will just step into the midfield, and Yoro does it a little bit as well. But Baleba is not going to sit there at Man United for £100 million. He's going to be all over the place. Intensity, that's what we're looking for. But look, you know, I'm spitting feathers at something that's just a misquote, really. Aiden Heaven is great at it too, says Vlada. Thank you very much. Okay, let me just get back in here because there was something else I wanted to discuss this morning. Just a direct quote from Fabrizio and Garnacho as well. Chelsea and Man United are now actively in talks to reach an agreement for Garnacho. Chelsea to accelerate, and they're already accelerating. We're entering the final stages of the Garnacho story very soon for Chelsea. So that is very, very significant. That is a very, very significant bit of quote. I expect Chelsea to accelerate. They're already accelerating, and we're entering the final stages of Garnacho's story very soon. This is really positive. And it flies in the face of Garnacho's behaviour because, to be fair to Chelsea, the respect for Chelsea in the transfer market, whether we like it or not, is huge. For years and years and years, like it's been going on for 20 years, they can sell high and they can buy what they want. And the reason for that is because reputationally, they've got a great reputation. We might not like Chelsea. As fans, we might not like Chelsea. But as Manchester United's crap negotiations have always preceded us for the last decade, Chelsea's reputation in the transfer market is excellent. And this is really encouraging because, as I said last night, it felt like Garnacho was acting a twat again, saying, I'll sit in the reserves for a year if you don't let me go. That's not necessarily Chelsea's stance. And I mean, look, that update from Fabrizio is huge, that we're entering the final stages. Well, it's August the 12th. The end of the window is not for another 21 days or 20 days, 3 weeks. So final stages is not 3 weeks. This is moving very, very quickly. It feels like with Chelsea, Xavi Simons has gone behind Garnacho, where I think last week it felt like he was ahead of him. So good news. Final stages. And as I said, that price is meant to be around £50 million. I don't know whether that's package or initial. I feel we're probably going to get 40, 45 up front and add-ons taking it maybe as much as 60. Which I'd be okay with. I've said this before, that you can look at Alanga going to Newcastle for 55. You can look at Pedro going to from Brighton to Chelsea for 50. Cunha 62. But the issue is none of those players were walking around in a Villa shirt in Mallorca. None of them, were having a public spat with the manager. So we have lost value in Garnacho. I think in January we could have asked for 60. I think right here, right now, you've got to take some off. So I'd be comfortable with anything over 40 at this stage because it's pure profit, really, as long as we build in add-ons and sell-on fees. Seth says there was always a do we need this player feeling in previous transfer windows. Now it's different. All the targets are the ones we get on points. Good point, Seth. Very good point. Yeah, I think, we've bought 3 players and every single one of them. Well, I don't know whether I think the order that we've done it has probably posed a question. I don't know that we needed 2 number 10s before we needed a goalkeeper and a midfielder. But I think at the conclusion of the window, if you've got a goalkeeper, a striker, a midfielder and 2 number 10s, you're very, very happy. But the order of signings never makes sense. There's reasons for that. How would Sesko, Baleba and Donnarumma affect FFP, as I think we would struggle to sign in Burma and Kummer? Apparently not. I wouldn't worry about FFP or PSR. Apparently it's all been a bit of a red herring. Rizik says, trust you well, still keeping good on your promise to run shirtless in your back garden after the Sesko transfer. I'm all for Baleba. I didn't say that about Sesko. That's bullshit, Rizik. I said I'd go down the slide. The hoodie was if we signed Osman, and the topless was if we signed Gyökeres. No, I didn't say Sesko. I was always very relaxed about Sesko. I always thought we'd get him. Jack B says, your analogy about a tuxedo yesterday was the best. If you didn't see it, just very, very quickly. So if Man United don't sign a goalkeeper this season and go into the season with Onana and Binder, I basically said it's like buying the best bow tie, the best tuxedo shirt, the best waistcoat, the best jacket, the best shoes, looking absolutely brilliant, and then walking out to the big main event and realizing you've got no pants or trousers on. And that's what, you leave yourself literally exposed with an open goal at the back. And that, to me, is what we're doing if we don't buy a goalkeeper. Yes, we've got lovely shoes. We've got a lovely bow tie. We've got a lovely waistcoat, but we're exposed at the back. And that, jokes or not, I think it's a fair point. AFCON's going to be a big problem for us, says Kenzo. I think people talk about the AFCON like it. You know what? I don't want to diminish this, but I hear people do this every year. Liverpool are going to lose it in the AFCON because no Mo Salah, no Mane. Other clubs, it's going to fall apart. And it never does. It never does, because it all depends on the fixtures you've got. I mean, sometimes in January, you only play 2 league games because of the FA Cup. And those 2 league games could be a home game against Fulham and an away game against against Burnley. So I think people go over the top with it, like it doesn't impact everybody else, and like everybody else might not be tired or have injuries. Look, Mbeumo you can use Xerxes or Mount. Ahmad, you could use Delo. Mazraoui, you can use Maguire, De Ligt, Yoro. Baleba, well, that's the position we're in now. You've got Agate, Mainu, Bruno, and it's only for a few weeks. So we'll be fine. We'll be absolutely fine. We have got a few players, but I think we'll be absolutely fine. I mean, obviously, after the event, if we lose every single game, you might talk about it. But I don't think I almost say to people, well, what do you want to do? We're trying to sell Onana anyway. So that's one. Mazraoui, I mean, he gets injured quite a lot. We play without him. Ahmad missed half the season last year and the year before with injury. So I'll take him missing a month with the AFCON as long as he's fit around it. And Baleba, we haven't even bought yet. So what are you saying? We shouldn't buy Baleba because he might miss a month with the AFCON. So Robert McCormack says he's odds on to go to City now. Who? Robert, you can't just say that. I just got back from May 2026, 4th and FA Cup, says Saint Blanco. I'll take that. He's from the future, Saint Blanco. He says we're going to finish 4th and win the FA Cup. Gyökeres only wanted Arsenal since April, says Joseph. And you can buy bread at Tesco. Are we just doing statements of the obvious? Don't know what that's got to do with anything. Doesn't mean that Man United weren't interested in him. Doesn't mean that Man United didn't like him. Also, if Arsenal had bought Sesko, he couldn't have gone to Arsenal. So United were in for him, mate. If we structure Baleba over 3 to 5 years, sell Antony and Garnacho, then get Donnarumma, if we make an approach for him, do you think that's possible? Nathan, Donnarumma talks are not taking place. Donnarumma is unrealistic today. You've just described a situation where in 2 weeks' time, there might be talks. Baleba needs to be the priority. He will revolutionise our midfield, says Jeremy. Donnarumma would be nice, but Baleba is a must. A goalkeeper is a must as well, Jeremy. Remember, Mark, when you said Baleba not happening, now obviously we know from the club that they want him, says Saeed. I don't agree with you that Rio Ferdinand broke the Baleba story at all. I think what Rio does is he looks at a lot of other social media accounts and goes, they're talking about a player, let's talk about a player. The story got broke by Indy Kaler and David Ornstein after that. He was just talking about what a good signing it would be, which is what many of us have been doing for months. So he didn't break the story, mate. Fabrizio just said that Chelsea are not in talks with Donnarumma, says Bjorn. I don't think anybody's in talks with Donnarumma at the moment because the price is too much. What about Don? Terrible. Why are we looking to sell Rasmus? Don't you think we should sell Xerxes? He's not an out-and-out striker. He looks more of a 10. Well, I think Xerxes is going to have a very interesting season, as somebody said last night, Prack. Donnarumma has 1 year left on his contract. Get him on loan for now and then get him as a free agent, but his wages are high, says Streep. I agree with your take. If we splurge with Baleba but keep making goalkeeping mistakes, the critics will be out on Amrim's spending methods, says Omka. Also, what people don't realise is that, Sesko's his first season in the Premier League has to be given patience. Cunha and Mbeumo, first season together, has to be given patience. And Mbeumo, first season in this system, has to be given time. Baleba comes in at 22, step up from Brighton. Is he going to hit the ground running straight away? There's going to be adjustments. And that's why I think the goalkeeper is so important, because we know that the new signings are going to take time to adjust. We know that the current team is vulnerable mentally. We are going to concede goals. There are going to be times where we're under the cosh. Putting a goalkeeper in who knows what they're doing, for me, when you're look, nobody can guarantee that Amorim's going to be a success. I think he will be, but nobody can. So, and nobody can tell me that this team's going to hit the ground running when clearly it's going to take time to get going. To me, you put a goalkeeper in that's good. You know, I'd put David De Gea in goal now. Like, just put somebody with a bit of experience in goal who knows what they're doing, because there are going to be times when we're going to be up against it, especially in the first 10 games. Will Onana be going to the World Volleyball Championship in September, says Mike. Amorim shouldn't pick Onana if he wants him gone, says Robert. But he's better than Binder, though, mate. Newcastle need to pay Premier League tax and we could break even, says JR. Thank you very much for that, Emily. We spoke about that one already. Lemens is more likely to come than Donnarumma, says Liam. And Robert McCormack says Donnarumma is 4 to 5 to go to City. Yeah, you've got to be careful with Donnarumma, because everyone going Donnarumma, you're going to have to go, never wanted him in the first place if he goes there. Look, what was it I was saying to you last week? I got told when we were concluding the Sesko deal that we'd go for a goalkeeper next and it would be Lemens. Obviously, this Baleba story's sort of overtaken with that. Look, I'd take Lemens over nothing. I genuinely think United have got some. My theory on the goalkeeper is we're waiting for something to happen later in the window. And it's a little bit like, you know, if you're injured, you know, if you bang your ankle and the physio says you need to rest it for 4 weeks and there's an important game in 3 weeks and you say, I feel well enough to play. And the physio says, if you play in that game, you're going against my advice. You might be okay, but if you play on it, you might be out for 3 months. So you play the game, you get a knock, you're out for 3 months. And while you sat there for 3 months, you know for a fact that if you'd waited another week, you'd have been back fit. What's my point? Onana in goal against Arsenal and Fulham is not ideal. But if you get Lemens now, he's not going to be a goalkeeper probably anyway, and he's going to take time to adjust. But if you wait till after the Fulham game, you might get Emi Martinez or you might get Donnarumma. So what I'm saying is, if that's the plan, I don't mind Onana being in goal for Fulham and Arsenal if we're going to get Martinez or Donnarumma late in the window. It's a bit of a sacrifice, but I don't mind it. But whether we're going to do that or not, I don't know. And also, we might be waiting to see if we can do that before we buy Lemens. Because if you buy Lemens, you can't do that. So maybe we're going, look, we've got Lemens in the back pocket. Let's see what happens with Donnarumma and Emi Martinez later in the window. Because we can't do anything if we get Lemens. But you never know, it might present itself. There was a feeling, thank you very much for that, Seth. I still don't understand why Man United wants to sell Rasmus. Why not leave him as a backup? Also, why sign Baleba when we lack height and power in the midfield, says Chin. Mate, you've made a very good point. And the answer to that question is, I thought Van Gaal was the answer. I thought Jose was the answer. I hoped Ollie was the answer. I thought Ten Hag was the answer. None of them are here anymore. So what I'm saying is, Amorim might not be the answer. I don't really overanalyze every signing other than, is this what the manager wants to do? Let's back him. I believe every manager should be backed. And if he wants Baleba, then he's a good player and we should do it. But in a year's time, we might be going, what a car crash that midfield is. We just don't know. But, you know, this is somebody that wants to play Bruno in the midfield, and I don't think that'll work. I'd rather see him as a number 10. So I think it's a good signing. I think it's the right signing if it's what the manager wants to do. And remember, it's his vision. You talk about height. He might be more focused on other attributes, really. But, yeah, I mean, look, let's see what happens with Donnarumma because, sorry, not with Donnarumma, with Baleba, because it feels like that's the priority. And as I said about that, Brighton are another club that will want to get that deal done quickly. They really, really will. So I suspect that we probably will get that deal done quite quick. Right, I'm going to stop it there. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I am now going to be live with Terry on Hot Takes, where we react to some funny clips. Well, not funny clips. We just react to some stuff. So get yourself over to Football Terrace for that. We will be literally live in a couple of minutes. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We're back at 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock show tonight as normal. And obviously, if anything breaks in between, fantastic show this morning. Thank you for everybody getting involved. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe, and I will speak to you all in a bit.